couple of new things that we want to play here. Here is Adam Schefter on Pat McAfee from today. This is him talking about Ben Johnson's coaching options.
I know everybody's got Ben Johnson anointed to the Raiders. I'm not in that camp right now. So I have to believe it before I see it.
Jacksonville.
No, we're not just going to start listing off Jacksonville. Maybe just look at the eyes. Look at the eyes.
I got him.
Well, here's my question. Again, I don't know where he's going to go. He's going to have, I think, 3 realistic options. But why is everybody ignoring Chicago when it comes to Ben Johnson? Why has that been just dispelled? I don't get it. Wow. What am I missing here?
I think we all think the Chicago Bears organization is shite. So whenever we hear that Ben Johnson, we're not saying that's just, it seems like it's a bit of a shite show.
Yeah,
that is what it seems like. So whenever we hear Ben Johnson, we think back to last year when Ben Johnson was like, I'm going to be very picky about where I go because he has options. Be who you can afford to be.
Okay, so if you're going to be very picky, and again, I know that this Raiders freight train has gathered a whole lot of steam, and I don't want to slow it down because, by the way, I want to say for the record, it could happen. He could be the coach there. But I am not just convinced just yet that that's going to be the way it's going to be. When we're talking about picking situations, if you're picking the Raiders, you're telling me that Ben Johnson turned down the chance to go coach Jaden Daniels last year, turned that down so he could go to a place this year in Las Vegas without a top pick, without a quarterback, that plays in a division with Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Bo Nix, Andy Reid, Jim Harbaugh, Sean Payton. Does that make sense to you?
So there's Schefter. I don't know if he's saying this as just like a speculator, like one of the talking heads, or if he's doing this with information. Because he told us to all slow down on the Vrabel stuff, that Vrabel is not spoken for, that you've got a long way to go before you hire Vrabel if the Patriots want to get that done. But yet everyone connected those dots and those dots were connected.
Mm-hmm.
Or if this is different, that
one made a little more sense than Ben Johnson going to the Raiders. I can understand why Shefty's like, whoa, that thing a little bit. Why would you do that? Now, you could give me a couple of, items that would tell you that this may not be a horrible spot for Ben Johnson, but I'm with him. I wouldn't rule out the Bears.
It's where my bet would go today. Again, I have the right to change it on Monday. Earlier in the week, I bet on McCarthy. But I believe now, once I got that information that McCarthy was the one who pressed the issue of being here, I think they're going to wait this thing out.
I hope so.
Until they're told they're out of Ben Johnson sweepstakes.
I'm going to guess as well, because it had an effect on me. What you heard from Greg Olson also kind of makes you say, this is a really obvious choice. So why wouldn't they actually lean towards the obvious choice?
We'll play that for you later. He was on at this time yesterday. If you missed it, grab it on our YouTube page. I've tweeted out some of the highlights of that too. It's youtube.com/@Waddle and Silvy. Make sure you subscribe when you're there. That page continues to grow. We love having you. And you can watch our show live right now on YouTube or Twitch, youtube.com/@Waddle and Silvy. Just click watch and listen live button if you want to watch our show live. And then all the other shows and all the other guests and features that we have are all stored there, and you can catch up on those things. Also, file this away for just information. I don't know what it means. I don't think it means anything. It is topical based on the article out today by Kaylin Kaler. We're putting her on at 5 today. She had a great deep dive article on the effect of what these agents have had on organizations, and especially the Bears, with a guy like Trace Armstrong. And this happens a lot with other agents, where their impact on having multiple clients with the same organization as, like, for instance, Poles and Eberflus were both Trace Armstrong clients. This has been gaining more and more steam online with Bears fans. Then Waldron, also a Trace Armstrong client. Now, Trace has a ton of clients. And we've always said, well, who are you going to hire? You're going to hire someone on your coaching staff for 2 reasons. You're going to hire someone because A, you've worked with them and you know them, or B, because you've been introduced to them probably through your agency. Those are probably the reasons why you've been introduced and you know somebody.
It's a pretty small fraternity as well.
This happens in college basketball all the time.
Of course.
It happens in a lot of different arenas with coaching all the time, with these arranged marriages where, again, you don't have to go with it. And it's always up to the organization. No one is forcing this on anybody.
Right.
And we'll talk to Kalen about it. But here's where the information does come in. Today it was announced by Front Office Sports. They said that Ben Johnson has hired Priority Sports. Priority Sports is based here in Chicago. They also have offices in LA and Atlanta. They are a worldwide agency. Mark Bartelstein represents multiple NBA players. Rick Smith is their NFL guy. Rick Smith lives in Highland Park. He will represent Ben Johnson. Now, that may not matter whatsoever. Many guys are represented by guys who are in a Miami and they coach elsewhere. It may not mean a thing, but
LA is home of CAA. I mean,
yeah, but Rick Smith went to the University of Illinois. He also got his law degree at Northwestern, and he resides in Highland Park. Be pretty nice to have a good breakfast with your own agent weekly. I'm not saying. I'm just giving you the information today that's out there based on the article.
Just the facts.
Just the facts. And
I wouldn't connect those dots in any way, shape, or form, but it's good to know all the facts.
Yeah, I'm just
I would say as well, too, like with the whole agent thing, these football organizations, you're the ones finally making the decisions. If you're willing to allow an agent's impact or influence affect all that's going on in your building, shame on you. Like, I blame George McCaskey and Ted Phillips and those that are running the program. I don't blame Trace Armstrong. What is he doing? He's representing clients. He's not hiring people. Trace Armstrong didn't draft a punter in the 4th round. That was the general manager. Well, the head coach, Matt Eberflus, was the one that decided Shane Waldron was his guy instead of Cliff Kingsbury, who maybe, if Cliff Kingsbury was hired as your offensive coordinator, is there a chance that Matt Eberflus may still be the Bears head coach? Don't know. I'm just saying these guys are hired by the franchises and then they do their thing.
Like you said about George and Ted, I used to say this all the time about the Bears coaching search and why I always thought there was an important need for a Bears president, a football president. We always said to George, you need a football president. Well, we don't need a football president. Our top guy is our general manager. But when you're searching for a general manager, you don't know anyone who knows football. So therefore, when you have a guy who played for the organization in Trace Armstrong, who knows a ton about football, who represents a ton of the top clients, well, let's talk to Trace. Trace is our one-stop shop. Like, that's now, I believe, say what you want about Kevin Warren, and it's still yet to play out how much Kevin Warren will do good or bad for the organization. Will he get a stadium done? Will he preside over a good search here, and will they hire the right guy? But I do believe Kevin Warren knows how to conduct a search better than simply going to the agent with the most clients. I think he knows how to run this correctly with checks and balances.
Well, the agent's voice is no longer going to be the loudest voice in the building. And it shouldn't be.
Yes.
I don't care what sports we're talking about or what owner we're speaking of. If an owner is allowing an agent to be the person that is impacting all of your hires, shame on you as an owner.
Yeah, so we'll talk to Kaylin about that, but I do think that it's more of a failure on the Bears than a failure on Trace Armstrong or anything shady going on there. But we'll get her opinion on that. She's a great reporter too, by the way. Tony in Oak Lawn, you're on ESPN 1000. What's up, Tony?
Hey, how's it going, fellas? I've been listening to you for a while, and I've heard you all talk about Trace Armstrong. I'm new to this, but when I did some digging, one of the Giants coach from Northwestern, he's also a client of Priority Sports. So maybe that was a favor or interviewing him, just trying to connect some things because it's a slow news cycle for the Bears, but he is a client of Priority Sports, and maybe we did that as a favor, because everybody was like, why are we
You talking about
interviewing-
Kafka? Is that who you're talking
Yes.
about? I think
Yes.
the Kafka thing had to do with his, like, again, it's who you know.
Yeah.
And I
Right,
think it's like Ryan Poles has known Kafka since he entered the league under Andy Reid's staff. They were both young guys under Andy Reid in Kansas City, and he was highly thought of there. And I thought he brought him in to just sit down with him.
And that also helps his profile of getting other jobs and stuff like that. So I was just, doing some deep digging and things like that, looking at the client list to see if there's any connections, especially after the report came out earlier. But thanks, guys. I would like to hear what you all say about that.
Yeah, Tony, thank you.
Yeah, listen, there's only a handful of guys that represent a ton of them, too. I mean, it's like I said, it's a fraternity. So, I'm not going to be shocked that Kafka's represented by somebody who also represents another one of these clients. And I'm with you. I don't think the Kafka interview is done out of, a favor to an agent. I think it's because there's a connection going back to Kansas City.
Yeah. Jimmy on the north side. You're on ESPN 1000. What's up, Jimmy?
What's up, fellas? How you guys doing? Best your families.
You too.
So the Greg Olson conversation yesterday, guys. I mean, that could have been the interview for president, head coach, and general manager of the Bears, and he probably would have done a better job over the past 3 years than any of them combined. It was nice to finally have a salient, fresh perspective on the sport of football that's not, focused its attention on 19 Zoom calls, including one with Mike Vrabel where the Wi-Fi doesn't work. And then, deciding to fly in a private.
The Wi-Fi not work on that one, Jimmy?
That's what I heard. I heard there was, Hallis Hall. The connectivity up there is horrible. And apparently they were in and out on that call, which is even more hilarious.
No,
I didn't hear that.
With who was this?
With Vrabel. Jimmy's saying that the Zoom call with Vrabel was in and out.
Was that a joke?
I swear, listen,
you're making it up.
You believe everything you hear on Twitter.
Yeah, I think that was someone making a joke.
Well, it's a good one, even then. I'm thinking about this. The Bears are so unprepared and idiotic at so many levels when you compare their behavior to what Greg Olson was talking about. I think there's no reason they shouldn't have an opportunity and be all in on getting Ben Johnson. So here's my question to you guys. Number one, how do you have not fulfilled the requirements of the Rooney Rule after 19 candidates so that if the Lions lose on Sunday, are you prepared to go right to Ben Johnson and bring him in and just seal the deal? That's how people do business. You have two competitors. Go out and get him. You don't try and outsmart yourself because you've never been smart. Listen to the smart people who are saying, go get Ben Johnson. Everybody, it's not hard. It's really you're ensuring your own idiocy, actually. It's to some respect. And I would be ashamed if some first.
Maybe you know this. I'll reach out to our reporters too, to Courtney, and confirm this. We were discussing this in the meeting a couple of days ago. I don't think the Bears under rules are held to the obligation that they have to tweet every interview, do they?
I don't think so. I wouldn't think so. I would think that that's just a trend that the team's using their social media platforms to stay quote unquote connected. I know, Jimmy. That just feels like it's a trend.
Well, when you say who cares, I'm saying that maybe they have fulfilled the Rooney Rule and we don't know. I've torn them to shreds.
I thought they hadn't. I thought I had heard
we
that
don't
they
know.
had not yet.
Well, what we know publicly, the point is what we know publicly is Ron Rivera is the only in-person, out of the organization person that they've interviewed that would qualify for the Rooney Rule. Under the rules, you have to interview two of them from outside the organization in person. But the point is, what if there is someone that they've interviewed that we don't know of that they didn't publicize?
That would make it 20 interviews, which is bandwidth impossible to make a well-informed decision in any time span that we're currently in to hire a head coach. It's ridiculous.
Listen, though, Jimmy, I think the point is that maybe they feel up there that there is a tactical advantage to not projecting all of the information.
And I'm not saying they're doing that either.
There's a real history of that, guys. They're real savvy tacticians in this game. It's going to come out that they made a late push, right?
And I don't blame you. I don't blame you for for being skeptical. I've been skeptical, so I'm not going to rip you for it. But look, I would hope, Jimmy, that when they know they can get their number one choice and when they make that mind up who their number one choice is, they can pounce. Yes, all your points are valid.
Know that you have competitors.
Yes, of course.
Know that you have competitors. That's the bottom line.
Don't mismanage
All right,
the
guys,
clock here. Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Jimmy.